Hi there, my name's Ben, and today I'm going to share with you why I read every day and why hopefully you should too. So, I've got three things written down here, and these are sort of like there are a multitude of reasons why I read. Obviously, I enjoy it as well, but I've narrowed it down to three main reasons why I make a conscious effort to read every day. But a little bit of background before that. When I was a young boy, I used to be a voracious reader, and I still am to this day. And I think that certainly that gave me a head start. And if you look at the other videos on this channel, you'll notice that I've read quite a few books in my time. Those are just the ones that I've reviewed. But I do derive a massive sense of enjoyment from it. But now, of course, as I got older, I decided, it's kind of dweebish, it's kind of nerdy. Let me, I want to go do other stuff. I want to go party. I want to, watch YouTube videos, do all this other stuff when I was in high school and in university. So I didn't read as much, and I've made the conscious effort to get back into it, mainly because, for these three reasons. Number one, it helps to develop my vocabulary and my grammar. And the reason why I like this is because I'm always constantly working to improve my voice and my speech and my command of the English language. I think because, again, it is a worldwide language. Everyone sort of kind of forced to know it. It does help me a lot to help to express myself. I learn new words that way. I learn different ways of expressing oneself. There's different linguistical, I don't want to say quirks, but there's, a metaphor that I've never seen or a simile that I've never seen, different linguistic devices. That's what I was looking for. And I like to add that into my arsenal. So then that way I might read something and think, oh, wow, that's a very elegant way of expressing oneself. I want to keep that. I want to use that for me. And I think that for me is one of the main reasons why I make the conscious effort to read every day. Right now I'm reading Goodbye to All That by Robert Graves, which is a short little autobiography of this author from the UK who right out of high school fought in the First World War. And so it covers his early life, his life into the trenches, and then like shortly after the First World War, when he started his first family. So I like to read that, especially from that time, because there was a certain way of writing and a certain way of people expressing themselves. So for me, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we can learn from history. That's just one example of why I make the conscious choice to read, especially books like that, because I always want to try to improve the way that I speak and the way that I express myself as well. Now, reason number two why I read and I make the conscious effort to read every day is because it provides for me a method to transcend the physical. And I've spoken about this in a couple of other videos, but it gives me, how am I going to describe it? It gives me a space where my mind can play. I can create a world within my head when I read. I can visualize the story if it's a fiction book. If it's a non-fiction book like the one I'm reading right now, my mind almost builds the world of, okay, what would it have been like to be in the trenches? And in that sort of a sense, it's really this ephemeral, out-of-body experience as you're reading the words, because you're not necessarily reading them in your voice. You're almost reading them in the voice that you think that the author has. That's just for let's say an autobiography or for fiction. Even if it's nonfiction, Let's say if you're reading something like Thomas Kuhn's The Structure of Scientific Revolutions or G.H. Hardy's A Mathematician's Apology, both of which I've reviewed on this channel, again, you sort of imagine that the author is speaking to you and you're having that dialogue. So it really does, that's what I really enjoy about it, is that it provides me with a method to transcend my physical existence by absorbing this knowledge and having these sort of these dialogues in my head, so to speak. I know it sounds a little bit wacky, but it does work, at least for me anyway. Number 3, and probably the most important one as well, is that whether or not I'm reading poetry or nonfiction or fiction or whatever sort of book it is, it could even be news, right? I'm always learning something new, and it's part of the progression of knowledge, the accumulation of it. Knowledge and information, of course, are very distinct, so I like to accumulate as much as I can. So then that way, it's almost like I'll be ready in case there's a question that needs to be answered, or that I'll encounter a problem that I'll need to refer back to that material to. So those are the 3 reasons why I read. And one of the reasons why I think you should too is, before I get into that, firstly, we don't realize that our society right now is extremely literate. We're doing reading every day. We're reading labels, we're reading text messages, emails, we're reading road signs, everything like that. So, I guess when I say why I read every day, you might think, obviously, everybody reads every day. But what I mean to say is that I make a conscious effort to read either books or articles or newspapers, news articles, whatever have you, something that's not your standard run-of-the-mill reading, so to speak, because I don't necessarily count that as reading. That's just getting by in life. But I think one of the reasons why you should too is because, again, it can't hurt. And there's knowledge out there that you could perhaps, avail of. There are lessons out there to be learned that you could perhaps avail of. Now, some people may counter and say, well, then what lesson am I going to learn by reading a fiction book like Philip K. Dick's Ubik, for example? To that, I'll say, you know what, you're right. And there are a lot of people who will sort of turn their nose up at fiction and poetry, which I don't agree with, but I can understand it because that doesn't provide a good enough transcendence from the human experience for them. They much prefer to read nonfiction or news articles. That for them, they have that transcendence, but instead of it being a little bit more artistic, it is more very logical and analytical. Okay, I'm downloading knowledge into my brain, but that's also transcending the physical. So that's why it's really, really important. There's knowledge out there. There's information out there. And I think that it should be incumbent on everyone to download as much of it as possible into your brain, because it can't hurt and you could use it at one point or another. That's really the main reason why I think you should. Again, I'm not necessarily trying to, ship reading to everybody, because again, it's not for everybody. Some people prefer to write. Some people prefer to make music. Some people prefer to paint or to sculpt. Some people prefer to record videos. Some people prefer to edit them or to develop a video game or something like that. What I'm trying to say is you have to find what's best for you. But I think that everyone should make the conscious effort to read just a little bit, if not for the 3 points that work for me, but for the bonus 4th reason of there is knowledge out there to be acquired that could potentially help you in your endeavors as well. So even if reading isn't necessarily your thing, but music is, might not hurt to read a blog post about how to create a different kind of music or how to learn a new technique. So, with that said, let me know what your thoughts were. Do you read every day? Or do you try to read every day? If so, what do you read? Would I be interested in reading some of it? Or perhaps doing a review on it? If you've got answers to those questions, or if you just want to join the discussion, please leave a couple comments below. And thank you so much for watching.